So yeah, isn't this amazing that
Yeah. Sure.
solar power can not only run a tractor trailer, but it can triple charge so it can run all night long.
Hey.
I'm just astounded.
Yeah, well, I want you to pull that up at the truck stop, and somebody will. And
Somebody will.
What if you have a company that makes the solar panels too?
Yep. And what if your company made solar panel trucks?
All I can say is, oh my God, or oh my God.
Omicron?
We'll get into that later. Now, just enjoy the music, Robert.
Oh, I always enjoy the music, Richard. How could I not enjoy the music? It's radio science news.
Well, good morning, Robert Strong.
Good morning, Richard Pollack. In fact, this is radio science news. You folks are tuning in to episode number 815 in a series. I know every time I do that, you think surely you're making this up, but if you look back, last week was 814 in the year, and the episode before that was 813. So we're not making this up unless
Well, the only thing I have to tell you is there's good news and bad news. We have so many things on ours that
we only have an hour.
But I actually got a message from the host that says that your index is about to exceed the 5 megabyte thing, and they'd ask, that they. So what I did is I kind of trimmed off the first 2 years. Well, I'm going to archive everything and put it where you can get to it.
Super.
But it was like I was thinking, what?
Wow. So we've done so much.
Yeah, it's like
since April of 2006 that the
too big.
Host went, it's getting a little much, dudes.
Well, it was kind of like when you go to your you go visit your grandfather's garage and you realize that there's a ball of string that's 2 feet in diameter, that kind of thing. That's pretty much what we had done there, I think. So. Anyway, but I digress. Go ahead, get us to the thing.
So you're saying that radio science news is a 2-foot ball of string?
Well, yeah, or could it be aluminum foil too?
I think it's more like aluminum foil. Yes.
From
all of our hats.
There you go.
Okay, so if you folks have tuned in, this is Radio Science News, episode number 815 in a series. If you're into prime numbers, anything that ends in a 5 is not a prime number unless it, in fact, is a 5. The factors are 5 and 163. This is December 4th, 2021, wow. And we certainly hope that you folks are having good time. I'm going to get you to Radio Science News the way that I usually do it. I go to my favorite webpage on the internet, which is www.smartcenter.org. SMARTCENTER.org. And when I get there, I find there is a little trifecta, triplicate rainbow of T-shirts that say Radio Science News.
Looks like they were washed in Tide, too.
They were probably washed in Tide because they are extra bright, yes.
Oh, yeah.
Just like you, yes. They are extra
Just like
bright.
our listeners, they're extra bright.
Well, of course they are. So you can now go to the link just above the little trifecta rainbows, and you will go to the web page,
the launchpad
of science, as we like to put it, that Richard lovingly puts up every single week for your sciencing convenience. And as we go, I get to see it for the first time because that's what this is all about. It's that you get to sort of listen over the shoulder of 2 science dudes.
Oh yeah, so you're kind of looking at it the first time. So it's like
I am looking at it for the first time.
It's like one of my favorite songs, "Blindsided by Science," is the one that's what's
constantly
happening.
blindsided by science.
To you, right?
Yep. Omicron.
No, Omicron.
Omicron.
So
what? Is it Omicron or Omicron?
Well, we're going to clear that up.
Okay, because I've always heard it was Omicron.
Well, that's because
I could be wrong. And that's okay.
No, you can't be wrong. That's the part. That's the nice. You see this thing where it says "Say what"?
Say what?
We're going to go We're going to go all the way through Greek tragedy to the French Paris.
It is a Greek tragedy,
and the British laboratory. We're going to talk about that.
Oh, okay.
Now we also have some. You may know that along with the Omicron or
Omicron
or Omicron.
Omicron.
We're going to get into that. There is some interesting new, of course, COVID news about a new variant.
Mm-hmm.
And I figure everybody's heard so much about that. And mostly what you hear over and over again is I mean, I've heard 85 times, well, we need to learn more. We don't know enough. And I go, yeah,
True.
I got that the first time. So I found some really interesting stories about.
The first 83 times.
I got some cool stories about testing that are neat, and then about a strategy to actually, as part of our defense against the various COVID
chew
SARS,
gum?
there's a chewing gum.
But wait. Then you can't walk at the same time.
Well, that would be
wait. That's just for the politicians.
It's okay.
Oh, okay, all right.
And
Gotcha.
then we got a bunch of other cool things. We've got xenobots, and we've got a cool
Xenobots.
exoplanet, a new definition
Of the
heliosphere. You're going to like that.
The boundary between our solar system and interstellar space.
And they've just come up with some new stuff about it, and also some neat stuff about the geodynamo, the thing that creates the electrical forces between our atmosphere and space, and you're going to like that.
Okay.
And of course, this is not denial. This is Denali.
Are you sure that isn't denial?
I deny it. Something else that
time crystals.
I had you
That
had
sounds
a
little
question.
Science
It does.
fiction-y.
It sounds Doctor Who-ish, but
It sure does.
But you had the pleasure, as I did, of talking to my grandson, who was asking you about various states of matter.
Yes.
This actually has to do with an issue of a state of matter related to quantum computing that we're going to get into, and then synthetic tissue.
Ooh.
This is pretty cool. The very last one.
So is this synthetic tissue that you that you use after like a burn, or is this something that you put between two pieces of bread?
No. This is actually a very cool medical story, and
Good.
I kept saying I don't know if we're ever going to get to TT10 and C. difficile.
Probably at
I had
some
to
point.
bounce them for this story.
Okay,
then the
that's
one that
all right.
we're going to spend a little bit of
The
time.
ECAT SKLEP.
Yeah. At first, I was thinking, is this
Not-
the SK Lepus, the rabbit-like quick? No. But for those of you who have been listening and following,
Energetic
the
kitty.
whole concept of ECAT, and some people think, wow, this is really weird sci-fi stuff. And Robert and I go, no, it's you can go back to 1950s when they gave the Nobel Prize to some folks for realizing that the so-called splitting the atom actually incorporated a step where you went lithium and you went to an isotope of beryllium, and then it split because it flew apart because it was just unstable.
Right.
But in the same thing, if you were able to just go to stable isotopes of beryllium and then harvest that energy of the people would say,
Transmutation.
I almost said it out loud, transmutation, because that's exactly what's going on.
That's exactly what's going on.
The idea that everybody would accept the idea that you can change from an isotope to another, and that's a very common thing. But at some point, you're going to go from one element to another.
Right.
If you're going cascading up or down the isotope ladder kind of thing.
Sure.
So the interesting thing is December 9th, coming up this next week, I think it's like a Thursday morning or something, you can go on and we'll talk about, I think we actually have the link down here somewhere for the demo.
As you're getting to that, one of the things that the vast majority of the people that are listening to our program, and myself included, and probably you, for years and years and years, in our training in schools and college and reading books and so forth, we've always heard that to be able to transmutate one element into another, it requires gigantic equipment and
spells,
energies, and on and on and on. And it's like, and you're taking and you're doing it one atom at a time, and you're like, yeah, can you make gold? Yes, you can, but at one atom at a time thing. But what this is, it's saying, guys,
it's not that
that's true,
but
there are other ways to do it. And it turns out that in the mid 20th century, that we figured out, though we didn't quite realize, that you could do it in an easier way. And it now turns out that it's not that easy, it's way easier.
Yeah, the thing that was hard was that we didn't realize it's kind of like, I don't know, it's like taking your grandson into a grocery store and they go over and they take the can of, there's a stack of cans like, 14 feet high, and they pull one off the end and the whole thing goes crazy.
Right.
The problem was that we had found out sort of how to do it, but when we did it, all hell broke loose and you had nuclear fission. So.
But it turns out that if you know where to do it and how to do it, then you can get more energy out than you put into it on a simple, you can do this at home way.
You could try this at home. I wouldn't recommend it. No.
Yeah, it's
Well, actually, we are
it's
going to try to.
absolutely astounding. Every time that we look at this kind of stuff, in the back of my mind is that wonderful Arthur C. Clarke quote that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from what?
Well, they say magic.
Exactly. And so there's a lot of people that are going to look at this and go, oh, this is some weird sleight of hand, some kind of magic trick.
And if it is, then everybody should call that out.
It's sufficiently advanced technology, folks. It's that our technology has caught up enough sufficient technology that our earlier training calls this not science, but what looks like a magical thing happening.
Yeah.
And we're on the cusp.
And it's also in a
And that is so darn cool.
Well, and it's also as we will find out, a real thing that involves the ability to do something in much more control.
Yes.
Doesn't require building a $20 billion ITER fusion thing that will give you 1% more than you put in. It's going to be a real, Robert and I hate to use the word game changer, but
Yeah.
and we'll talk about this briefly. But the main thing is that we do want you to know that this demo of not only what we thought was going to be the initial product, which is just an LED lighting system powered by this so-called, the ECAT, Energy Catalyzer SK. It turns out that they're also going to demonstrate what everybody said to them is a much more useful thing. We want the thing that you're going to power your LED. We want an actual generator.
We want something to power
So the last thing,
all of the stuff that we have.
we'll leave a little bit of time at the end to make sure we get to
All
the
right, good.
ECAT ACE. It's the LEP, which stands for electrical production.
Oh, that is so cool.
So, all
And
right.
again, folks, indistinguishable from magic, only because it's sufficiently advanced. It's advanced beyond the knowledge that you got years ago.
Yeah, but
Okay.
it's not. But it's not that complicated.
No, it's not.
So we'll cover this as it emerges.
Sure.
I'll tell you, we're gonna jump back. There's so much about the new variant, but of course, the first thing I put up on the
Omicron.
well, the thing that's been driving me crazy is because like when you were talking about stuff indistinguishable. I used to think that magic fingers was pretty, I couldn't tell
that
if it was
is cool.
science or commerce because you had to put a quarter in. But magic fingers. But all this week, I kept thinking about people would come on and Dr. Fauci would come on and he would come on and talked about the Omicron variant, and then somebody would come on from another thing and they would talk about the Omicron, and then
Omicron,
and then somebody from Britain would say the Omicron, and some people would say Omicron, and I was kind of thinking,
I
gosh,
know.
it was kind of like when I used to wonder whether we were in the Iraq War or the Iraq War.
Yes.
And it's not a big deal. So the first thing I put up is from the CDC, and it's kind of like a statement on the new variant, and it's the B.11.529 variant. And
So that just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
the 529. So this is just a kind of overview of it, and then there are, of course, links in this page. Prevention strategies, community transmission, what fully vaccinated means, and what they recommend. So this kind of talks about, and they update this typically so this is the starting point of all the discussions. And if you've been watching the news, it's like every day they go, oh, another state has it or another country has it, and on and on. But I found really interesting, like my wife and her friends were like doing a thing where they get together on Tuesday on like a computer thing, and they'll sit there and they'll talk about. And one of the things was, well, how do you say that? And they were like, a couple were saying, well, because they were like in a sorority, so they're they're looking for the Greek alphabet,
right.
and you could actually find things that show. It's really funny because you'll find like a different dictionaries. Merriam-Webster says something, and Funk and Wagnalls, and so. At first I found one that showed that basically the big conflict for English speakers was that American English and British English do it differently. And we would all get that because we've all either, depending on which side of the pond you were on, you were either working in your laboratory or your laboratory. We used to go, gee whiz. All right, so the second link is, say what?
Say what?
And I found this.
COVID-19, is there a correct way to pronounce
whatever
Omicron in quotes?
And then they have this, they have this great picture. It looks like a hell. Oh no, that's the chart in the back. I thought it looked like flaming.
It's really
with
weird.
A needle in that. First, there's a picture of a vial.
According to experts, however, there's no single agreed upon English pronunciation. Why can't we?
Well,
I mean, I realize that there's Republicans and independents and the Democrats and on and on and on. But why can't we just all decide? Yeah, why can't we just?
But the thing is, the only thing I'm going to say is, we'll scroll through this. But I did like the guy points out at the end, and we'll go through a couple of these, that you have to understand that when people talk about going to Paris as English people, they shouldn't be upset because the French say, "Oh, you have come to Paris." It's
true.
Like they're saying, "Hey, it's different pronunciation, but it's hardly wrong." So, what I'm going to say is, if you scroll down through, you're going to see them talk about.
Oh yeah.
They're talking about, says one Merriam-Webster uses O with the accent on the Omicron. So Omicron. That sounds good. It sounds like a toy you'd order for Christmas. The new.
Or in the U.S., less commoner, Omicron.
Well, but before they get to that, they say that really for the American speakers basically use the Omicron. And then if you're like the Prime Minister from the UK, you go Omicron. So they changed that. Now the part that I think I'm going to say, for me it's okay. Well, if you go down to they're talking about an actual. It says somebody goes somebody used Omicron because they like to accent the fact that in the Greek alphabet
it's a small o.
Yeah, in the Greek in the Greek alphabet you have Omega, which is mega means the big O, and the little o was the little one. Micron is Omicron. And it says the Greek Omicron, which meant small o in the classical Greek.
Okay.
Now, the thing that I thought that made the most sense to me was that since we are talking about American speakers, and since I don't want to take up British citizenship just yet, maybe Canada, no. It says Merriam-Webster editor-at-large Peter Sokolowski said that because the Greek word was transliterated for pronunciation into English, as many things are.
Yes.
He says, sounding similar to, he's talking about other Greek words that have been turned into English words.
Like
it's similar to omnipotent.
Oh, it isn't omnipotent?
Well, no, it's omnipotent.
I know.
You want to fight about that? No.
Absolutely not.
His point is that it is different from kind of the origin, which was omnipotent,
Right.
So then he says that the Omicron pronunciation makes perfect sense if we're going to sort of maintain, when we're taking the words. Yeah, we're taking Greek to English, and I like this word transliterated.
Yes, that is a nice term.
As opposed to transobliterated, which is the way a lot of people talk about everything. Now, the only thing about this article, I'm going to ask you because Robert, there's something in here, and I know that you've studied like the Bose-Higgs, all these different things, the Higgs boson, and all these different things that relate to God.
Yes.
It says here, the question of the first syllable's British versus American pronunciation wasn't specific to that particular word. Okay, I'm following him so far. I'm going, of course, the British, we said laboratory. It says here, Willie said, comparing the difference between the British and American pronunciation of G-O-D. Okay, I said, wait a minute. So what, there's a difference? I'm sorry, do the British not say God? Do they say something else?
Gold?
Well, maybe I guess that's it. It's kind of a small one. It's kind of like as something.
As opposed to God.
Yeah.
God.
All right, so enough controversy about the...
Wait. I have one thing more to say, believe it or not.
Seriously? Okay.
Of all the words that you're going to have as a small g, I wouldn't think that God would be one of them.
Well, and usually...
I think I would capitalize that.
Well, I've been in churches where if you don't do that, you'll be going through, and if that's you would miss the spelling bee. If you
They would
do
probably boing you at the stake.
Oh man, I don't know.
I just saying.
Well, I'm still trying to figure out what the British pronunciation of the word God is, because unless like you say, unless it's just that instead of the it's a longer O.
Right.
Well, but I don't.
I might be it.
Oh, good God.
Oh God.
And in Detroit, what do they say? Good golly, Miss Molly. Just think about that. All right, too much about the pronunciation
Too
because
much information.
because I like the idea that they point out that it's okay.
Yes.
All right, so check out this thing on testing.
So the very most important thing is that as long as I know what you're talking about and you know what I'm talking about, it doesn't really matter what the accent is.
Well, we're off the hook there, I tell you. All right, so this story is from Duke University, and I had a really good friend that went to Duke University and became a doctor. It says rapid testing identifies antibody effectiveness against COVID-19 variants. Now, one of the biggest things that many of the scientists and the people that believe in science and medicine, when they're talking about,
there are people that believe in science and medicine.
There are many of them, and they have pointed out that what is missing is some real accurate testing. So I think this is really good. I'm always in the midst of what look like possible dire days and weeks ahead because we're looking at another variant. It's nice to find when there's some good story. And it says here that biomedical engineers at Duke have devised a test to quickly and easily assess how well a person's neutralizing antibodies fight infection from multivariants of COVID-19.
Ooh, I like that
including
idea.
Delta and the Omicron.
Omicron.
Omicron. Now, the thing about this is, this is just so important because rapid testing, as you may know, there was some weird stories about
the key to this whole thing, I think.
But it has to be rapid and accurate testing.
Yes, it has to be rapid and accurate at the same time.
And if you were a person interested in testing, you probably paid attention to a recent story this week about some high officials who took the very accurate PCR tests that were found to be COVID positive, but then they took a very quick, short turnaround just an antibody test that said it was negative.
Hoping for a false negative.
And they got it, and that's all they... Anyway.
And that's what they...
This is really important. It says, while developing point-of-care tests for COVID antibodies and biomarkers, we realized there would be benefit to detect antibodies to neutralize specific variants. And so this is really cool.
Wow.
The thing that's really interesting about it, because it's going to have something to do with the next story, is the fact that there's something that we talked about very early on.
It only took us a week or two to incorporate the Delta variant in our test.
Yeah,
and it could easily be expanded to also include the Omicron variant.
Yeah, that kind.
However you pronounce it.
If I'm at home, I call it that kind virus.
That kind, yeah.
Oh, wait, what happened to my thing? My thing disappeared. Oh, no.
Here.
Wait a minute. Okay, so the thing that I wanted you to see is that, oh boy, don't scare me here. Let me go back to this again. So the thing that I want you to see is the talk about the ACE, here it is, the Spike ACE2 competitive antibody. Okay, they've actually dubbed their test the COVID-19 variant spike ACE2 competitive antibody neutralization assay, and they have a big long name for it. But early on, when we were talking about all the strategies against COVID,
right.
The fact that the spike hooks onto the certain proteins, like if you're familiar with ACE inhibitors for heart, there's some really key stuff. There was a strategy early on that we talked about, and then it kind of disappeared, was that if you just took a whole excess of ACE2 that you could have free floating in your bloodstream, that it would pretty much clog up all the spikes, and they
every
could
single
never,
one of them.
And I tell you, that has never gone away.
I wonder why.
I don't know. So anyway, this is
Maybe
really good news.
Too easy and too cheap.
Well, it may be, because when I said that, when you talked about walking and chewing gum, this next story, I didn't even realize these were connected until...
hey, everything is connected.
Well, it is. And
chewing gum.
It says chewing gum that could reduce SARS-CoV-2 transmission. Now, you notice they didn't just say COVID-19 again, and there's a reason for that. There's a picture of a transmission electron micrograph
with false color.
Look at this SARS.
Nice.
And look, if you move your thing, they blink on and off, just like a Christmas display. So when you highlight it, okay, I'm skipping this little pop-up about my liver dying. I don't think that's terrible.
I don't have one of those.
It almost looks like if you have a button on your.
I have one that says multiple clinical trials.
Wow.
I wonder what I have been Googling.
No, I don't know. Okay, so here's what is really cool. It says the Wistar Institute and the Fraunhofer USA. It says this could lead to a low-cost tool in the arsenal against COVID-19
so
pandemic.
It says a chewing gum laced with a plant growth protein.
Yeah, so now
serves as a quote-unquote trap for the SARS-CoV-2 virus, reducing viral load in saliva and potentially tamping down transmission, according to a new study.
So now the cool thing is, if you were really deeply into this whole thing, you would be saying, well, okay, so wait a minute, what in the world, what protein could
this gum?
Well, and what protein would this be? And if you scroll down,
is it something that I can like get at the store?
Well, and the part about first of all, the fact that they actually created plants that would just produce tons of. Oh, here, I'm looking down. I'm going to scroll way down.
Okay.
It says they were working on research to develop a chewing gum that would have plant
growth
that would stop the growth of dental plaque.
Oh,
what a nice idea!
What
right?
a super idea!
Well, but here's the part.
Disrupt a dental plant.
So if you have
plaque.
You could prevent
growth.
You could prevent gum disease and tooth decay
by chewing gum.
Well, but here's what he said. He said, well, he was looking into this COVID thing too, and it said pairing his insights about ACE2 with his technology, he wondered if such a gum with these plant-grown ACE2 proteins could neutralize the SARS-CoV-2 in the oral cavity. And guess what? It does.
I bet it does.
It does. So
where do you buy this gum? And is it flavor? Ooh, I just saw resulting in plant material into cinnamon-flavored gum tablets. Ooh, sign me up. To test the chewing gum, the team grew ACE2 in plants paired with another compound that enabled the proteins to cross mucosal barriers and facilitates binding, and incorporated the resulting plant material into cinnamon-flavored gum tablets.
Yeah, so basically,
that's awesome.
But we're also just back at that initial thing that, like I said, many people talked about early on in the whole COVID thing. The fact that one thing they knew early on was the way the spike proteins work.
Nice to see you, sir.
And regardless of whether there are mutations of the spike protein or not, or the variants come along, they all kind of do the same thing. The spike is designed to hook on to the ACE2, the proteins.
So it's going to
you could gargle with this and chew it.
It's going to bind them.
Yeah, it's just going to basically use up all their sites, and then once that's done, they can't bind to this the stuff in your. So this is really a cool story.
It's so easy. It's like, all right. It's like this could have been there the whole time, had we seen this.
But people did talk about this the whole time, and that's another frustrating thing.
Where can you buy this gum?
I don't know.
And can I walk down the street and hand it to people that are not wearing masks? Excuse me, sir. Would you like a piece of gum? Why sweetie?
If you look below at the related stories, you'll see a whole bunch of these things that we remember talking about. How the ACE2 protein is critical, blah blah blah, So anyway, again, a great, and I'm going to say it's an amazing story.
Yep,
it really is.
Excellent.
Wow. Well, I say, okay, now I don't know whether the xenobots are a little scary. I'll tell you what. I'm.
Are they too scary?
I'm biased against robots, but let's take a quick look at xenobots.
Xenobots.
First of all, do you have to spell? First of all, I was going to say xenobots, but the original Greek, tiny living machines called xenobots can create copies of themselves. Wait a minute.
Oh, so they are like viruses.
Well, yeah, or some kind of bacteria. Now, the part that's interesting.
Blobs of frog cell exhibit surprising and complex behavior.
Blobs of frog. That sounds like an
blobs
insult.
Hey, you blob of frog cells.
So
I am going to use that.
Well, and the other thing I thought
you look like a blob of frog cells.
If you were a kid and you looked at this picture, you would
I'd go, wow, that looks like a blob of frog cells.
No, you'd say it looks like a Pac-Man game.
Yes, it does.
It does look like a Pac-Man.
It does indeed.
So here's the thing. It says a Xenobot parent, shaped like a hungry Pac-Man, shown in the red false color, created an offspring Xenobot by gathering loose frog cells in the opening.
Sure, why not?
Well, and I'm thinking that probably because of the shape too. So this thing has this weird little shape. It says, and this is the part where I'm going, who's doing this? I want to. They're creating tiny living machines made of frog cells.
Okay.
So they just take a whole, this, like you say, a glob of frog cells, and
Glob of frog.
the guy says this is, and of course I'm thinking, you're excited. This is an incredibly exciting breakthrough for the field of biologically based robotics. Now that's a whole neat, the idea of like
biologically based robots.
He's an electrical and computer engineer at Cornell. Who studies, groups of robots. So the thing that's weird is it says
So it says robots that can copy themselves are an important step towards human domination. No, that's not what it says.
Yeah, and even though they this has also got some great science. If I were doing the movie, I would use all these things. Kinematic self-replication.
Oh no, not that.
Yes, because they're saying that the actual process is basically involves movement, and I'm thinking,
Right, sure.
well, so these things move around, and then it says here, this is different. Xenobots are finding loose parts, sort of like robotic parts of the environment, and cobbing them together. Those collections then grow into a second generation of Xenobots that can move around like their parents. Wow. There's even a video. I don't think I want to play it because it may be
Like a father blob's frog cell.
Let's see if this has
like
any.
daughter blob frog cell.
Oh, good. It's
Nice music.
It's actually really cool
It's
because
like
you can see
dance to the blob.
but you see what they're doing. They're actually in a motion that causes them to create a circular little. See how they move?
And they're weeping up.
Oh man, they look like a border collie in the sheep together. Look how they.
Well, that's really awful.
This is kind of scary.
Wow, they do clean up, don't they? They clean these areas up around them.
Yeah, the only thing I wish I knew more about was their actual motion. They have a, and I don't think I like this word. It creates a C-shaped blob that can spawn more.
Spawn is a bad term the overall
science fiction
genre.
Well, anyway, there they are, the little Xenobots.
They are definitely Xenobots.
I'm stopping them before they get to the end of the music.
A full-bodied Xenobot consists of about 4,000 to 6,000 frog cells. That's just a nice little soundbite. So next time that you're in an elevator and you have on your mask and they have on their mask and you're as far as you can get away from each other,
you can say, "Are
you can go, hey, are you into
Xenobots?"
Xenobots, and they'll go, oh, did you hear the latest episode of Radio Science News? You go, well, of course.
No, they'll say, hey. They'll say, are you getting off at this?
Back.
Yeah, they'll say, I'm getting off at this floor. That's what they'll say.
I'm getting off at the next floor, whatever that floor is.
I'm telling you, I feel like going a little bit off planet. So let's take a look at this cool story about an exoplanet.
So you've got exobots.
Exo.
Wait. Xenobots, and these are exoplanets.
Yeah,
right,
I'm really focused on the Greek alphabet.
You are definitely.
So you'll like this, and of course, the thing I do kind of like is that people say time flies when you're having fun.
Yes.
It says according to this story from just yesterday, astronomers discover a hot, dense planet with an 8-hour year.
So it's
Christmas comes every 8 hours. Oh my God!
Whoa.
Christmas comes but once a year. Okay.
So if it's close enough to its home host star to orbit once in 8 hours, first of all, it's going to be really a toasty planet.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, it's got to be gravity locked on there. So the near side is going to be probably red hot, and the far side is going to be really chilly.
Now, and the interesting thing is, it's interesting because at first I'm thinking hot, dense, but then it says in a new study, the researchers show the planet, which is 31 light years from Earth, is one of the lightest among the nearly 5,000 exoplanets.
So it's a small planet
that we know about. It's basically slightly larger than Mars, like 900 kilometers.
And chances are, because it's so close, it has no atmosphere. It probably has no water. In fact, it's the crust is probably long ago sort of boiled away. It might just be a dense iron
Yeah.
core.
And I think I
of
saw
the
it
world.
listed on other places, and they're talking. It says GJ367b belongs to the ultra short. These are called ultra short period USP. Wait a minute, that's it. The USP is something.
Ultra short planets. Oh,
Ultra short period. Yeah.
Okay.
And of course,
Pardon.
as you will know, as a physicist and a mathematician, folks out there, that by observing all this stuff, you can determine. The part that's kind of amazing is that it says following the discovery of the planet using tests and the transit method, the spectrum of the stars was studied, HARPS instrument. The thing that's amazing is that they were able to determine with some accuracy all of the, these various properties of
So its radius is 72% of Earth's radius, and its mass is 55% of Earth's mass. Wow.
It says, by determining a radius and mass with an accuracy of 7 and 14%, the researchers were able to draw conclusions about the exoplanet's inner structure. It is a low-mass rocky planet, but has a higher density than Earth. The high density indicates the planet is dominated by an iron core. They say all this stuff without even being there.
Well, what is so cool when I was thinking about the environment that this thing would be in, I was thinking it had to be extremely a very dense thing. If this planet, this let me get the name, GJ367b, if it were the same density as the Earth, with its size as 72% the radius, it would have a mass of 0.373, but it's got 0.55.
Yeah.
So it's a much a denser world than ours, and that's why I just extrapolated and said there's probably no crust on this thing. In fact, there might not even be an outer mantle. It's so close, most of that could have been vaporized away, and all that you're left with is essentially an iron nickel core.
Yeah. Wow. This is, I think,
And that's exactly what it says. The high density indicates the planet is dominated by an iron core. That makes perfect sense to me.
It's also really cool. The very last little
Wow.
paragraph it says that these red dwarfs known as Class M stars are orbited by an average of 2 to 3 planets, each of which is about
at most 4 times the size of the Earth. Wow! Isn't that amazing that in our lifetimes that we've gone from, gee, I wish we could figure out if there were any planets around other stars to now we're going, gee,
of the 5,000 that we know.
Yeah, of the 5,000 we currently know about at the end of 2021 for Class M stars, these what they call red dwarfs, they're orbited by at least 2 or 3 planets, each of which is at most 4 times the size of the Earth. And you're like, now, is that 4 times the mass or is that 4 times the diameter? I don't like it when people say times.
Yeah.
Because it's a very odd.
You were talking with a young scientist, and we were talking
Yes.
about something size change. When you said, well, that means the mass is 4 because you have dimension.
Exactly.
It's not a one-dimensional object or two. It's
a 3-dimensional object.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so are we talking about diameter? Or are we talking about mass?
Yeah, I mean, it's bad enough when people go, is it Omicron or Omicron? but when they use something that is like arbitrary in the sense that they're not even
Yes.
talking about the same thing.
Right.
So this new thing about the heliosphere.
I am really impressed.
We always talk about, even when we're talking about the Earth, we talk about, well, we've got the lithosphere and the troposphere and the whole concept of what are they talking about? Well, with the planet Earth, you go, okay, so you have the atmosphere, and we're thinking, well, that's that's the gaseous stuff, and then the lithosphere, well, that's the kind of spherical shape, that's the stone and the solid structure. This picture of it says here, is this what the heliosphere looks like?
Wow, what an interesting shape. Now what's fascinating is that this shape is not dominated by our star Sol and the planets so forth. It's dominated by the starlight pressure of all the stars around it, and so you're going to get this
shape,
interesting 3-dimensional shape.
Well, and it has weird appendages. And basically, they're saying, is this? They're not saying exactly, but this team, Boston University, led by BU physicist, Merav Ofer, has made a breakthrough discovery in our understanding of the cosmic forces that shape the protective bubbles surrounding our solar system.
Yeah. So
look what it protects us against too.
shelters life on Earth and is known by space researchers. Okay. Protects the planets within our solar system from powerful radiation emanating from supernovas. Supernovas, the final explosions of dying stars throughout the universe. They believe the heliosphere extends far beyond our solar system, but despite the massive buffer against cosmic radiation that the heliosphere provides, Earth's life forms, no one really knows the shape of the heliosphere, or for that matter, the size of it. We've got a reasonably good idea because we've got the Pioneer spacecrafts and the Voyager spacecrafts that are detecting magnetic fields and radiation, and they're out there.
Well, that's interesting. I'm saying that this, of course, this name pops up, and I'm thinking, it says that James Drake, astrophysicist at the University of Maryland, collaborates with this Professor Ofer.
I wonder if that's a relative of Frank Drake.
I'm thinking.
Wouldn't that be interesting?
That would be kind of cool. They don't say, but there are lots of theories. But the way the galactic cosmos rays can be impacted by the structure, does it have wrinkles and folds? And so they've used all these, as they say, compelling computer simulations based on models built on observable data and theoretical astrophysics.
Cool.
I'm scrolling down to see. Oh, they have a thing called SHIELD. The SHIELD team has hunted ionized particles. They've really taken. This is quite a detective story.
So SHIELD stands for Solar Wind with Hydrogen Ion Exchange and Large Scale Dynamics.
Wow.
SHIELD.
And of course, their whole point is that they're talking about the nature in terms of, say, what is the physical structure of this thing that shields us from so many dangerous things.
I thought.
Oh, I'm scrolling down. There's a new research. I guess this is an image of the force field emanating from our sun and encompassing our solar system is likely unstable and irregularly shaped. Okay, well, I get that. Maybe that's a big part of what they're trying to say is that because the sun does have, with all the the kind of eruptive things that happen, that it does change.
And I'm sure that Jupiter's huge magnetic field in the direction that Jupiter is, that defocuses some of the plasma.
Right.
That's coming out from the sun, so there's probably dimples and little protrusions.
Oh, now see,
the direction.
This is something I can relate to because I'm thinking these guys probably stayed up late and got hungry when they're working. It says that a lot of the models that have been developed and proposed by other astrophysicists tend to depict the heliosphere as having a comet-like shape.
Okay.
With a jet or tail streaming behind.
Okay.
But he says, according to these guys, in contrast, their model suggests that the heliosphere is shaped more like a croissant or even a donut. Cream-filled donut.
Glazed donut.
Filled with neutral hydrogen particles.
Oh, baby.
Man, that sounds
I want one of those.
Only one? Okay.
Well, it would be really big.
This is...
So I might only be able to eat one.
I think one of the cool things is probably true. It says the universe is not quiet.
No, it is not a quiet place.
And their model doesn't try to cut out the chaos, which has allowed me to pinpoint the cause of the neutral hydrogen particles. Presence of the neutrals colliding with the heliosphere triggers a phenomenon well known by physicists. Oh, of course, the Raleigh-Taylor instability.
We all know that. In
RTI,
fact, we have songs about that.
The Raleigh-Taylor instability, which occurs
all together now.
When
Raleigh-Taylor instability song.
Two materials of different densities collide. With the lighter material pushing against the heavier. It's what happens. Oh yeah, when it oils. Okay. Yeah, it's got a lot of interesting stuff here.
Very cool. Very, very cool. I'm really glad to see that there are people staying up at night thinking about
croissants and donuts
and astrophysics.
Well, and this little thing would make it relatable to a lot of people who have, of course, seen at least images. It says
of the Horsehead Nebula.
Fingers seen in the famous Horsehead, or was it Horsehead? Horsehead Nebula, for example, are caused by the Raleigh-Taylor instability.
Yes, the Horsehead Nebula. I like that.
And I'll tell you what, the theories of Bachman-Turner overdrive were also really very pertinent.
Excellent stuff. Wow, you
I found some good stuff this week.
Hit the golden payload. Let me just tell you. I am impressed.
Oh yeah, let's get a little closer to home, Robert, because the
geodynamics?
Geodynamo, strong winds. This could be a native strong winds, chief of the Okeechobee tribe. Strong winds.
I believe that was my grandfather's Indian name. Strong wind.
Break winds.
Break winds.
Break winds.
Break wind, stand downwind.
So this is from the good folks at the NASA Goddard
I
Space Flight Center.
just want to say before we start getting mean on my emails that I'm probably 1/4 American Indian,
Nice.
so I get to make jokes about
You
this.
can make jokes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Silly savage. No, my grandson is.
How you say that? What?
Hey, wait a minute. This is from the folks, like I said, from the NASA Goddard Space Center.
Yes.
I don't know.
The Goddard.
I can't decide whether to get my gas at the Go-Mart or the Go-Mart. Okay. This is really a very cool thing because we talk about this all the time. They're talking about the electrical environment.
Okay. So the strong winds power electric fields in the upper atmosphere. This is November 29th, 2021, just a few days ago.
This has been a long theorized dynamo on the edge of space.
The edge of space. A wind-driven electrical generator that spans the globe 60 plus miles, or about 100 kilometers for everybody else, above our heads. The dynamo churns in the ionosphere, or ionosphere, the electrically charged boundary between the Earth and space. It's powered by tidal winds in the upper atmosphere that are faster than most hurricanes. Now, these tidal winds, I'd like to know more about that, and rise from the lower atmosphere, creating an electrical environment that can affect satellites and technology on Earth.
So now it's interesting. You notice they're showing a picture
Of
Look
the
at this.
Aurora Borealis.
And so,
Or is that Borealis?
that's close enough for me. And what I find interesting is that, we always talk about the charged particles from the sun hitting the upper atmosphere. Well, the thing is, it's always moving, and it's in strands, and it's like curtains, and that's because of
these
this.
are charged particles created by motion in the Earth's atmosphere.
Again, I like the idea that there's motion involved in the collision of particles, and
if you
so many other things you and I talk about involve that.
If you were to think about what a thunderstorm is in the lower part of the atmosphere, the reason that we get lightning from thunderstorms is that you've got air sections moving against each other, and the frictions in the motion of the air causes these charged particles to build up. So the same thing, if we've got hurricane-like things going on in the upper atmosphere, now it's the density is going to be a lot less, but you're going to get the same charged particles.
This is a cool article.
This is really neat. I'd never really thought about this before.
Well, here's another thing. It talks about strong winds in the thermosphere. There's a layer of the upper atmosphere known for high temperatures.
Right.
And you think about, so obviously this will be another thing that might be affected by, as we talk about the Earth's temperature warming and global climate
long article.
change.
This is really good. I'd love to spend a lot of time going through this.
Well, Robert, I'm going to, as I always tell people that listen to our radio science news broadcast, it's very possible that you could take just one of these stories and
spend the entire
sit around
hour
and talk
plus.
about it.
Yeah.
This is very cool.
This
and,
is really
and it's all,
neat.
and of course, it talks about being related to the sun's 11 years activity cycle, and wow, this is neat. But
very cool.
But it's one of these things, as they say, that's been theorized and talked about for years and years.
Well, see, the reason is that we can put satellites that are in orbit above this, and we can put aircraft and balloons that would be below this, but we don't have too much that's right in this.
Yeah,
and that's why we're just not sure until now.
It's also interesting that it's right at that distance from the Earth's surface that everybody talks about. Well, did he go to space or not? We're
exactly.
right in your transiting through that region, which is anytime you're in some kind of a differential area, there's going to be interesting stuff happening.
And the thing is that if your goal is to get to space, you're not going to be spending a lot of time here. You're just going to be lobbed up and
right.
lobbed down, or you're going to be lobbed through it.
You're going to hope that you get through it.
Yeah.
Except now I'm looking at the fact that this particular area is an area with a lot of energetic things going on.
Very, very much
and,
so.
Who knows how that might accrue to some other, approaches in terms of energy and stuff. All right, Denali. Now, you know that Denali, Robert, for most of our lifetime, did not have, as you have referenced Native American heritage, it was actually named something else.
Yes, it was.
It was named after David McKinley. It was Mount McKinley.
Certainly not him.
No, not that. He wasn't around exploring.
No.
And this is cool because we're getting into thermochronology and all kinds of weird
It says
stuff.
inside the tonic wake of a migrating restraining bend, Mount Denali, the highest mountain peak in North America.
Yeah, this is again. If you're fascinated, as I am, and many of our friends are, by, the ideas of plate tectonics, and the thing that's so cool about if you scroll down through it, it's talking about the Enigma of Mount Denali. Now, 20,300 is really something.
That is really
and it's located along the Denali Fault, and that's a strike-slip fault geologic structure, which is primarily horizontal. But here's the thing. When you get kinks or restraining bends along these kind of things, what it does is you can just picture it kind of folds.
Sure.
I think there's a picture. Well, if you go down, there's some really good charts. I'm going to enlarge this
They
chart.
use scaled physical experiments, thermochronology, seismicity patterns, and fault slips rate data to come up with a whole new geologic process to explain the Enigma. Great phraseology here.
Well, and part of it is that it's if you get into this migrating low angle restraining bends, there's a kind of very complicated diagram down there that you can enlarge, and if you're familiar with all that territory, field experiments to understand the structures. But basically, the point is these low angle restraining bends persist. And this is actually known as they've left the Mount McKinley Bend is a title for, even though Denali got renamed on the surface. I'll tell you, we have people that would just sit and look through every one of these charts and go,
it's gorgeous.
aha!
Oh,
I would say, yeah. Well.
So it's difficult for Americans to understand what a 6,190 meter mountain means.
Wow.
That's, folks, 20,300 feet.
This is really...
That is really up there. That is just amazing. That's like 2/3 of the way for a transcontinental plane to be going back and forth.
Then further down,
just amazing.
The other thing is that I had not been aware is that they're talking about Mount Foraker, which is 17,000, is essentially a pale and older. It's the existence of the Denali at the McKinley Bend because of the way instead of horizontal goes vertical. Almost like the Hawaiian Islands or something. The seismic or the tectonics are kind of in motion and things are happening.
Boy, they really do have some neat
look at these charts,
images and charts and diagrams.
Man. Anyway, very cool.
Awesome stuff. Yeah, I want to spend some time through this.
So there we go. Now, Robert, time crystals. Since you were in a discussion with a young scientist not that long ago, where we were talking about different states of matter.
Yes.
And it's one of those things that it's very fascinating because as a kid you understand, when you understand that there's solid and liquid and then gaseous, and then the cool thing is when people realize that there's plasma too, you often showed people in a candle flame that you've got all these things. Just you feel very cool when you know that. And then kids like the one you were talking to was starting to, I think he was trying to get you into condensates and Bose and you're going, oh my gosh. Well, when I started reading this thing, I was not expecting to see what would be considered a new phase of matter. So for those of you who really feel it's important that we get into quantum computing as quickly as possible.
At least once a week.
Anyway, but they're talking about the fact that quantum computers of the future will have to, it says, the thing that I didn't follow it quite until I read through this at least a couple times.
This is interesting. It says, for example, the creation of a new phase of matter called a time crystal Just as a crystal's structure repeats in space,
Okay,
a time crystal repeats in time, and importantly, does so infinitely and without any further input of energy, like a clock that runs forever without any batteries.
So I mean, even when I read that paragraph, those sentences in this paragraph, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, are we ever going to get this done? And it says here, the quest to realize this phase of matter has been a long-standing challenge in theory and experiment, and very important to quantum computing.
Sure.
One that has now finally come to fruition. And so this publication, just at the very end of November in Nature, all these guys, these are not garage researchers. This is Max Planck. Either Max Planck or Max Planck. Now, Max Planck, that's the Lumber Institute, isn't it? Max Planck, Complex Systems, Oxford University, Max Planck. Anyway, but basically...
I was kind of slow for that one.
The big picture is that we are taking the devices that are meant to be the quantum computers of the future and thinking of them as complex quantum systems in their own right.
Yeah.
And basically, we now have said, when people ask you, Robert, how many phases of matter, because they literally say, instead of computation, we're putting together computers to work as a new experimental platform to realize and detect new phases of matter.
Wow.
So time crystals, I don't know.
Time crystals.
And there's a big long section on what a time crystal is and what it isn't. There you go.
So what isn't it?
I know you are, but what am I? No, I know.
If we only had time.
Oh gosh, this is
goodbye, guys.
Where we start this little thing, what I think would be what it is. There's another like 3 pages. It's like it's really long.
This is a great article. I'm going to put a little bunch of stars next to this, and after we're done, I'll
when you're
go back and spend some more time.
Like Christmas Eve, when you're waiting up for Santa, you could read this because
no. You can't wait up for Santa because then he skips your house.
Well,
come on, you know that. You're just being mean. You just want Santa to miss my house again for the 3rd time in a row.
Ideal time crystalline behavior. See, there's a phrase that. This is really a very fascinating.
How
thing.
Fascinating! Yeah.
Okay, now. Take a quick look at Synth Tissue, and I think we'll have a couple minutes to just sort of talk about the ECAT as we go. Now, this is also, as I said, when we're talking about all the concern and worry that we all have about COVIDs and variants and things, there is always fabulous stuff going on. And this is it says combining. Now, I love this because we often talk about the fact that if you're like in your own field and you're a physicist and you're arguing with a chemist about how something works.
It's hard to have an argument with people that are...
They're two in their own little camps.
Areas, yes.
The thing that's important about this, the idea of having various, disciplines, as they say.
Yes.
It says combining knowledge of chemistry, physics, biology, and engineering, which is, this is what I think everybody should do.
Everybody should be doing this.
They developed a biomaterial tough enough to repair heart, muscles, and vocal cords. This is representing a major advance in regenerative medicine.
This is so
a big
cool.
deal.
This is awesome. All right, so what we're going to do? Let's not spend a lot of time on this. Let's let our listeners
read
look into that.
Let's jump to
let's go to. Okay, and then you, as the music's playing, then you can talk about the
I've got to. I'll watch the time.
SK LIP.
It's going to be the
LEP.
Rossi orders for the ECAT SK LEP can be placed starting December 9th.
Oh, that's next week.
Oh my gosh! Now the thing is, they're gonna go, and part of it is they're gonna go into production when they have a lot of orders. But I'm just saying to people, okay, I'm not gonna claim that this is all gonna, maybe it's gonna be like, aha, I was just kidding. No, I think this is really a big deal. And as we look through this, we know that they were talking about what was going to be considered the first product, which was the ECAT SK LED, which was really cool and interesting. But a lot of people said, that's neat, but I don't want all these lights. I want to I want to do something. I want to run my, electric train around the Christmas tree.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
So basically, the thing that's kind of a big piece of information is from this, I think we can see that Andre Rossi is focused on getting orders and making sales of the ECAT SK LAP, the electric generator. which he believes is going to be more attractive for most potential customers than the ECAT SK LED. Well, I agree, because you know and I we're like dark skies people.
Yep.
We don't need 10,000 lumens
We don't
of
need
light.
10,000 lumens. We need some dark skies and lots of power.
And it says on December 9th, there will be a data sheet published about the SK LED, including the price along with an order form.
Oh, I wonder what they cost.
Well, I don't know.
We will find out and report back to you, Radio Science News.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Me too.